Following his victory at the Battle of Edington in 878 AD, Alfred faced a pivotal choice: destroy the defeated Vikings or change the course of history. He chose peace. The Treaty of Wedmore, signed between Alfred and the Viking warlord Guthrum, was a bold gamble. Its terms were revolutionary. Guthrum would withdraw to East Anglia, ruling a Viking-controlled territory later known as the Danelaw. Guthrum's baptism, taking the Christian name Æthelflæd, was more than a ritual. It signaled a shared future. Viking settlers began adopting Anglo-Saxon customs, sowing seeds of cultural integration that would shape England's identity. Yet the treaty was fragile. Viking ambition simmered, and Alfred knew trust alone wouldn't hold. The symbolic act of baptism, with Alfred as Guthrum's godfather, was a political masterstroke. It transformed an enemy into an ally, saving Wessex from annihilation. Alfred hosted Guthrum and his men for 12 days of feasting, forging personal bonds to cement the peace. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle notes Guthrum's men swore oaths on sacred rings, a Viking custom, blending their tradition with Alfred's Christian ideals. Still, Alfred knew peace was temporary. The Vikings, driven by conquest, would return. In the Danelaw, life was harsh. Viking laws prioritized revenge over justice, and towns paid Danegeld, a crippling tax to avoid plunder. Alfred's Wessex, by contrast, offered order, law, and hope for a beleaguered people. In the wake of peace, Alfred rebuilt Wessex, not as it was, but stronger. He established a network of burhs, fortified towns that transformed the kingdom's defense. These weren't just castles. They were military strongholds, trade centers, and administrative hubs. Inside the burhs, stone walls echoed with the clang of blacksmiths forging weapons, the bustle of traders in vibrant markets, and the shouts of soldiers drilling for war. Wallingford's burh, guarding a key crossing of the Thames, thwarted Viking river raids, protecting Wessex's heartland. Each burh was placed within 20 miles of another, ensuring rapid movement of troops and supplies. No Viking raider could strike deep into Wessex unopposed. Some burhs, like Winchester, grew into thriving urban centers, their markets buzzing with merchants from as far as Francia. Others, like Warham, stood as grim sentinels against coastal raids. By 886, Alfred had recaptured London, fortifying it as a burh, and signaling his ambition to reclaim Anglo-Saxon lands. Alfred also reorganized the Fjord, the Anglo-Saxon militia, into a rotating service system. One half served in the military, while the other worked the land, ensuring fields were sown and swords were sharp. Alfred wasn't content to defend by land alone. He commissioned a fleet of ships, larger and faster than Viking longboats. These vessels, some carrying up to 60 oarsmen, were built broader and higher, designed to outmaneuver and overpower raiders. Some say Alfred himself sketched their designs, inspired by tales of Roman galleys. These ships patrolled England's southern coast, from Kent to Devon. This was the birth of the English Navy, a force that would one day dominate the seas. In 882, Alfred's fleet clashed with Viking raiders off the Kent coast, capturing 4 ships and scattering the rest. The fleet's presence deterred raids, forcing Vikings to seek easier targets. Alfred sent emissaries to study shipbuilding in Phrygia, adapting their techniques to bolster his fleet. This innovation marked Wessex as a power unafraid to meet the Vikings on the open sea. Alfred believed justice was the heart of kingship. He compiled a law code, drawing from Mosaic law, Christian teachings, and Anglo-Saxon customs. His goal? A fair society, governed by morality and equity. Alfred's laws protected the vulnerable, mandating that lords compensate peasants for stolen livestock, a radical step towards fairness. Another law required judges to seek truth impartially, punishing corruption harshly. Alfred wrote, "Doom very evenly. Do not doom one doom to the rich and another to the poor." This code, blending Christian ethics with Anglo-Saxon tradition, inspired centuries of English legal thought, from the Magna Carta to the modern jurisprudence. He also standardized weights and measures, declaring, "One measure shall be used for all." This reform curbed cheating in markets and fostered trade. Alfred minted new silver pennies, stamped with his image, to symbolize royal authority. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, commissioned by Alfred, recorded, "In the same year, King Alfred fortified the land, and no Dane dared cross it." Most kings sought glory on the battlefield. Alfred sought it in books. He believed ignorance was a greater threat than the sword. Viking raids had razed monasteries, scattering scholars, and erasing Latin literacy. Alfred invited scholars like Grimbald from Francia and John the Old Saxon to rebuild Wessex's intellectual life. He established schools, insisting that nobles and freemen learn to read and write. Alfred's courts translated dozens of texts into Old English, making knowledge accessible to a war-torn people. Remarkably, Alfred learned Latin as an adult, despite chronic illness, and translated key works, including Boethius's Consolation of Philosophy, offering wisdom for enduring hardship, Gregory's Pastoral Care, a guide for humble clergy, Bede's Ecclesiastical History, preserving England's Christian story. Alfred wrote, "It seemed better to me that we should also translate certain books which are most necessary for all men to know." Acer recounted how Alfred, plagued by pain, carried a small book of prayers and psalms, reading it daily for strength. He devised a candle clock, dividing his day into precise hours, balancing duty and learning. The Viking invasions had shattered England's spiritual life. Monasteries burned. Faith withered. Alfred saw religion as the soul of the kingdom. He rebuilt monasteries, transforming them into centers of learning and refuge, where people gathered to pray, learn, and rebuild their lives. He encouraged monks and priests to become teachers, spreading literacy alongside scripture. His wife, Queen Æthelflæd, was a vital force. She endowed nunneries like Shaftesbury, fostering religious communities that educated women and preserved sacred texts. Her piety complemented Alfred's vision, ensuring the church's revival reached all of Wessex. Alfred's reforms were extraordinary. but his humanity made him legendary. From his youth, he battled a mysterious illness, possibly Crohn's disease, that struck him without warning, leaving him racked with pain. Acer wrote that Alfred prayed for a lesser affliction, one that would not hinder his duties. This resilience defined him. Even in agony, he governed, planned, and dreamed, refusing to let personal suffering weaken his resolve. Alfred was no distant monarch. He traveled his kingdom, inspecting burhs, hearing disputes, and sharing meals with his people. One tale, recorded by Acer, tells of Alfred disguising himself as a minstrel to visit a village near Winchester by firelight. He listened to peasants speak of Viking raids, scarce harvests, and hope for peace. Their stories shaped his laws, ensuring they addressed the needs of the humblest subjects. Another account describes Alfred settling a dispute between two farmers over land boundaries, patiently hearing both sides before decreeing a fair division, earning their loyalty. His leadership was rooted in empathy. Alfred understood the Anglo-Saxons were not one people, but many. West Saxons, Mercians, Kentish folk, divided by customs and dialects. To unite them, he held assemblies, or wittens, where aldermen, thanes, and freemen voiced their concerns. These gatherings fostered a shared identity. Laying the groundwork for a nation, he also rewarded loyalty, granting land to those who served in the fjord, ensuring even common soldiers felt invested in Wessex's survival. Alfred's personal losses deepened his compassion. His mother, Osburh, died when he was young, and Viking wars claimed friends and kin, including his brother Æthelflæd, who fell in 871. Yet Alfred persevered. Driven by a belief that a king must serve, not rule, in his preface to Pastoral Care, he wrote, "I sought to live worthily, that I might leave to those around me a memory of good works." His humility shone in his actions, whether comforting a grieving widow or teaching his children to read. Alfred was a king who led by example. Acer described him as a father to his people, a ruler who balanced strength with gentleness. When a young monk struggled with Latin, Alfred sat with him patiently explaining the text, showing the same care he gave to his warriors. This was Alfred's true greatness, a king who, despite pain and peril, never lost sight of his people's hopes. Though he ruled only Wessex and parts of Mercia, Alfred adopted a new title, King of the Anglo-Saxons. This was not ambition, it was vision. Alfred declared, "I desire to leave to the men that come after a memory of me in good works." A dream of unity that outlived his reign. He strengthened ties with Mercia, marrying his daughter Æthelflæd to its ruler, Alderman Æthelred, forging a partnership that united their lands against Viking threats. Æthelflæd, later the Lady of the Mercians, fortified Mercia's borders, proving as formidable as her father. Alfred's dream was a united England, bound by law, faith, and language. He standardized Old English as a written language, ensuring his translations and chronicles united disparate tribes. His descendants fulfilled this vision. His son, Edward the Elder, and grandson Æthelstane, the first true king of England, united the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms by 927. Centuries later, Monarchs like Henry II and Elizabeth I honored Alfred's legacy. His laws, reforms, and vision of nationhood outlasted kingdoms. In 899 AD, Alfred the Great died. Aged only 50, his life was marked by pain, war, and triumph. His greatness lay not just in battles won, but in laws written, knowledge preserved, and a nation imagined. He defined what it meant to be English, a people of law, learning, and resilience. Though his grave was lost to history, his influence endures. Alfred's burhs shaped England's towns, his navy inspired its maritime power, and his laws laid the roots of its legal system. Winston Churchill wrote, "We owe far more to Alfred than we generally suppose." From the swamps of Æthelflæd to the statue in Winchester, Alfred remains a symbol, not of conquest, but of wisdom, perseverance, and leadership. Alright, you guys, that was my part 2 to my Alfred the Great series. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Part 3 will be out soon. I should be dropping a community note soon to kind of let you guys know the timeline, but it should definitely be out within like the next 4 or 5 days. As always, you guys, thank you so much for everything you guys do. Have a great day.